material, which seems to indicate that the town is paying an enormous amount for engineering services for, let's say, Jacobson Associates, when in fact it's an applicant who's paying it. So that's an important point. As far as RFPs are concerned, certainly it's prudent under the current set of circumstances to do our best to seek the best that we can at the most reasonable value and the most reasonable price. So I do think that's important. As far as computer services, legal services, fine. As far as the fact that we're using many different types of engineers, as is just cited by Supervisor Wrights, you know, once again, I'm new on the board since January, and I do know that, let's say, for instance, AKRF and those individuals who apparently are more specialized in what they perform. That's an important component of their job services. So I would be interested in looking into RFPs, but making certain that we're not just going to hire one firm that may not be specialized in one area. So my particular concern is, yes, minimize the sums of money that we're paying, yet make certain that we're still getting quality services.
And I think the reason we have different engineering firms is because some specialize in different types of engineering. You know, the ones that Levon deals with special districts, and the one that we have as a town engineer are two different things. So that's why we do have different engineers. But you know, and as far as the computer services, I'd be willing to go out for an RFP. The only thing I just want to make sure is that we have on-site repair, that we're not shipping computers out. I think that's important. I think I feel confident that the vendor we use now is very reasonable compared to what other municipalities pay for computer services.
I'd like to comment on that as well. I agree with what both has been said by Councilwoman Hudak and Councilman Cullen. It's time to take a look. We've been having for a few years now that we've been on the board, and it's a good time to evaluate. I know in other municipalities, school districts, they change accountants periodically, and they change other audits periodically of different companies to keep things on the proper level and checking costs as well. In addition to what you said about computer services, a neighboring community has a 2-year contract for $80,000, $40,000 a year for a fellow that's available all the time, and we work on a per diem basis, and the costs running in a 12-month period go around $12,000 or $13,000. That does not include hardware purchases for either the municipality that's neighboring us or the town of Southeast. So we do have a good deal, but it's always good to take a peek and see what's going on out there and what the market does bear. And I certainly agree with what you said, Bob. We want our computers to stay in-house. We don't want to ship them to Mumbai to be checked out and then come back. We want to keep them here because there's a lot of important information related to the community, tax information and so forth that should stay within in the confines of the community.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman.
I'm glad that we're finally sitting down and actually agreeing to put all of these services out for an RFP, because we need to get a good market price now. These engineering services, I know the previous board and some members on this board have said that, you know, they have an institutional history with this town. We should keep who they are here. They know a lot what's going on. However, I tend to disagree with that only because there are plenty of companies out there who can do this job maybe for a better price, maybe for a better service, but we don't know that until we put it out there. So there's no harm in doing this. I appreciate that, and it just seems like the consensus now is that we will be putting this out for engineering services, legal services, as well as computer services, to find out what is out there in the marketplace. And with that, hopefully we can now start saving some money throughout, because these engineering services are costing us thousands, if not into the millions of dollars. And at this rate, we cannot sustain that here in the town of Southeast.
I think it's important to note that in terms of, at least I do recall at the first meeting saying that Nate Jacobson's engineering firm has served the town of Southeast for a lot of years.
30 years plus.
And I was not comfortable at that time, being a new member of this board, in any shape, manner, or form of rocking the boat. So I don't know if that is what's being referenced, but what I would say is that, you know, once again, you know, thousands, millions, whatever is the amounts that are being quoted, you know, we have to be sensitive to the fact that engineering firms, architectural firms, planning board firms, we have to make certain that we're still receiving the best services we can, because under some circumstances, it's important that, once again, that we not compromise the quality of services being given to the town just for a less expensive price. I think we're all used to that. And, you sort of sometimes get what you pay for. So under those circumstances, I want to make certain that I agree that, we are in line for sending out these RFPs, but that we're still going to be sensitive to the needs of this community to have quality services given to them instead of cheap services. And to the extent that we can combine services, and if we find the firms that are willing to or qualified to combine services, then certainly I would be on board to do that. But, once again, and I'll reemphasize the fact that a firm like Nate Jacobson, the applicants pay for the services, not the town. I think really what we're speaking about is we recently had the landfill reviews by the engineering firm. That's obviously something that we are not getting paid for by the applicants since it was our issue. But, just so that everyone knows that when we say we're going to go out there, I can't compromise quality for value. But certainly the bottom line is if there is a quality firm, and it might be Nate Jacobson's firm that steps up to the plate, then fine. But I think where the board needs to know that quality is an important factor to be concerned.
Just for the councilwoman's edification, when that contract was issued to Sterling Environmental for the landfill, that was subject to an RFP, and they were the firm that won the RFP.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, the point's been made a couple of times that the applicant pays. In fact, that's been used to throw sand in the eyes of taxpayers for years. In fact, it is a fraction of what it costs and the money out the door to cover the engineering costs incurred by the town of Southeast. We have many projects. The Highway Department townwide utilizes an engineer to help with MS4, with road projects, stormwater control, drainage, repaving, the whole gamut of what they do. There is no applicant. We are the applicant. Town of Southeast taxpayers pay that bill. Again, no RFP, no public bidding as noted for 30 years. We have the Peach Lake Sewer Plant. We have the landfill has not just the environmental consultant who's been handling it for us. Also, again, Nathan Jacobs, not to beat up on them. They do a good job. I just think we're overpaying.
Well, we don't
Nathan
know
Jacobson's handling that,
We
too.
don't know that for sure. That's,
Well,
that's your assumption.
Councilman,
Until we put it out for RFP,
With-
you're right, Mr. Cullen, we don't know that.
With respect, Councilman, the 2 points on that. One is, you and Roger and Liz in January 2010 voted down an RFP for this year. As of June, mid-year, we'd spent $800,000, in excess of $800,000 on engineering services. And that we're on track to spend $1.6 million, no public bidding, no RFP in 2010. Now, our collective experience of this body this year has been the prices have been down about 20% given the economy. Wells Camp came in under budget for the expense, not just on engineering but on the contracting. But the larger point is Peach Lake came in about 20% cheaper than estimated. The landfill came in $500,000 cheaper than estimated. And there have been additional savings. The savings, as a footnote, is to our credit. But the fact that we've overpaid all year for engineering and other services is outrageous and was unnecessary.
I think, as Liz said, Liz and I just walked in the door January, and I don't think either one of us were in the position to understand the process, and we needed to find out what the companies we were using. So I think that's very important. But we are willing to look at it, and prices are. We can see what we can get. That's fine. And just as far as something else on the aside, as far as the budget, I just found out on September 14th that we are experiencing a severe budget shortfall for this year, and I'm just a little concerned that it took me till September 14th to find out about that. I don't understand why this wasn't projected earlier. So it's a little hard for us for this year to take corrective actions. For next year's budget, though, we're gonna have to take severe corrective action. But I think there should be a little bit better communication with the budget officer and the rest of the town board prior to September 14th to let us know so we can evaluate things.
And who is the budget officer?
The budget officer is me. We've talked
Right.
all year about saving money, about the need for saving money, about luxury spending. So there's no fig leaf to assert that September 14 was some kind of, sudden...
Well, that's when I got a memo
you know,
from the town
a
accountant.
light appeared from the sky that's shown on this issue. That's specious.
It's interesting, Mr. Cullen, how you just brought that up and asked who is the budget officer. It just seems like you just threw a knife out here. You know what? I've always said our number one job sitting on this board is to watch how we spend money. And I've been saying that since January when you've taken over on this board. And you have not even considered doing any of that, and now suddenly you throw a knife at the supervisor by asking who is the budget officer. There is plenty of communication here. Each and every time we vote at a meeting here, whether it's to buy a new highway truck or to spend money on batteries, we're responsible for that.
Or
So
letterhead.
at this point, no, it's not whatever. At this point, there is a shortfall. We've been saying that forever. You have to pick up any newspaper around here, and it's going out around the nation, okay? It's hit our town. I said it last year. It's hit our town hard. And yet we continue to spend money, and I called it luxury spending, and I said it numerous times, and it keeps going on and on and on. So if you want to say when you first came in here in January that you didn't want to put anything out for an RFP, well, now, your responsibility is to put it out for an RFP. Your responsibility should have come back to us in February and said, you know what, Mr. Supervisor, we have X number of engineering firms here. Could we look at that? Where could we save money? And none of that was done. And now you throw a knife out there to say who's the budget officer. Your number one responsibility is to save the residents in this community a penny, a dollar, a nickel, whatever it is. And I gave the same scenario and the same analogy that people would drive up 22, stop in a gas station, and before they go in, if the gasoline is $3 a gallon, they'll go to the next station where it's $2.99 to save a penny. And that's a penny that's important to a lot of people. And sometimes members on this board say, well, it's only a cost of a soda or something that we just spent. You know what? If it's a cost of a soda, that's important. It's not your soda. It's not anybody else's soda. We're supposed to make sure we don't spend recklessly. And that's what I'm concerned about here.
And it wasn't the case that it wasn't done, Bob. It's the case that there was an affirmative decision in January 2010 to continue to grease the same parties who've been greased for 30 years. And Dwight and I resisted that, and we were outvoted. So there it is.
Well,
And
I take-
right now, the budget officer is completing, which is me, is completing the supervisor's budget for 2011, and that's the context that we're discussing this tonight.
Well, I take exception to being, we're greasing different people. We were in the middle of a landfill closure, which is a major operation. We had an engineering firm online, which is doing an outstanding job. They know what they're doing, and you can't mess around. I take a little bit of offense to what you're saying here. Our number one responsibility is the health and safety of this community, and certainly service. Certainly saving money is part of it, but health and safety is number one. Roads have to be proper, and the basic services we provide have to be proper and on time, and we're doing that. And there's no secret that you have political friends that want contracts, and
Mr.
I've been getting
Gross.
phone calls.
Mr.
Excuse me,
Gross,
excuse me.
Let him continue.
I've been getting phone calls by engineering firms that are friends of yours, contributors or whatever. There's no secret, so let's call it what it is, okay? We're going to put RFPs out. We're going to take a look. You've made your point. I think we should move on.
Well, Roger, it's hitting below the belt to say contributors of mine. I didn't take any.
really?
I didn't take any contributions in the last election on purpose because I was determined to avoid exactly the scenario that you're raising speciously now. But the larger issue is, I'm proud of us as a board that we worked together, and brothers and sisters can disagree, and brothers and sisters do disagree. And we've got brothers and sisters, and we've got family experience, we know it. Brothers and sisters can disagree, but in the end, they're family and they work together. And in the end, on the landfill issue, which you mentioned, I'm proud of us that we did work together. And as I recollect, it was a unanimous vote to, a unanimous consensus in agreement to cap and to save that extra $500,000 below the engineer's estimate on the cost of capping that landfill finally, after a 20-year delay. That's to our credit.